Okay guys, I am so excited to be back for another Labor Tip Tuesday, and today we are not focusing so much on labor and more on breastfeeding and the postpartum aspect of it, because I want to give y'all as much education and advice and tips as I can. And I actually did a little poll on my Facebook group where I do free education and tips, so if you are not a member, get into that. I will link it in the notes below. And just gave a couple topics and asked what they wanted to see first, and everybody was super interested in getting my top 10 breastfeeding tips. So that's what we're going to talk about today. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Sarah, if we haven't met. I am a labor and delivery nurse. I've been an L&D nurse for over 7 years now, so I've had the opportunity to help lots of mamas deliver lots of babies, which is great. It's a joy and a passion. And I'm also a mom myself. I'm a mom of 3 girls. I have identical twin 4.5-year-old girls, and my youngest, Harper, is 2. She just turned 2. So we definitely have had our hands full for a little bit, as I'm sure you can imagine. I also delivered the twins via C-section, and I had my last vaginal. So I was able to do a VBAC with her, and I was lucky enough to breastfeed all 3 of them. So I have a lot of personal and professional experience and tips and tricks that I can send your way. So I'm just really excited for the opportunity to chat with you today. I try to put out a new video every Tuesday, at least, maybe sometimes even more than that. So it is so helpful for me if you will like and subscribe to my channel. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. And if you ever have questions or comments, put them down in the comments below. I would love that. So I can't memorize all 10 of them, or I might get a little lost. So I am gonna follow along in my notes a little bit today. I've got a lovely baby prop to help me with some breastfeeding demonstrations. Since my youngest is 2, she's not as easy to maneuver around. I probably couldn't show you so well by using my actual child. And I'm fully caffeinated. So I'm here, I'm energized, and I am ready to go. So let's dive right in. Okay, so I've just rounded up 10 tips and a couple bonus tips because I just kept thinking of stuff that I think is super important if you're gonna try and breastfeed. And there's definitely more that I can go into, so I'm sure there'll be more to add to this later, or maybe a video specifically on positioning. I will cover a couple of my favorite positions, but for now, this is definitely something that can help you get started, and you will know way more and feel way more prepared than if you didn't watch. So I hope you enjoy. Okay, number 1 tip, guys, is initiate breastfeeding and skin to skin, which skin to skin is just where you put baby, naked or in their diaper on your chest or just against your skin. So it can also just be breastfeeding, but you want to actually open up your gown, get baby on your skin, skin to skin. And that is an amazing, just an amazing thing for bonding. So even if you're not planning to breastfeed, it would still be beneficial. It helps regulate both of your vital signs. It helps bring in your milk. It helps get hormones regulating and just stimulated so that your milk reflex and all of that can get started. And like I said, if baby's too cold or too hot, your body temperature actually adjusts to help keep the baby the perfect temperature. We do recommend covering their back with blankets. Don't just be like naked out in the open air because they can get cold easily. But skin to skin is so great. So if you can initiate at least skin to skin, but also try to do skin to skin in the first feed if you're planning to breastfeed within the first hour of life. So babies get super sleepy the first 24 hours, guys. So the first hour or so, they're gonna have a nice awake period, and you really wanna take advantage of that awakeness so that you can get a really good initial feed in. Sometimes that might be the longest feed they have for the first 24 hours. So as much as you can get them to eat, it really is gonna get your milk stimulated, your colostrum flowing, and be really great for both of y'all, because later in that night, in the first 24 hours, it's gonna be a lot harder to wake them up, and you won't be able to get as many productive feedings in. So if you're having a C-section, maybe you won't be able to start within exactly the first hour of life. Hopefully you can, but if that's not possible with your hospital or the way the recovery procedure works, just as soon as possible is great. So try not to stress like exactly 60 minutes, but if you can within an hour, that's definitely beneficial. And then also if your baby happens to be in the NICU, it's still beneficial for you to start expressing colostrum. Colostrum is that first milk that you have the first couple days. Ideally, it's all that baby's gonna need, unless they are in the NICU or, you know, maybe they have blood sugar issues. But if we're talking about a full-term healthy baby, then the colostrum should be all that they need. Now, if your baby is in the NICU, it is really helpful for you to, as soon as you feel up to it and can, ideally within the first couple hours, start expressing the colostrum, either hand expressing, and your nurse should be able to show you how to do that, and I can maybe include a tutorial here soon. Or you could use a manual pump. Those two things I think work better to get the colostrum out than the electric hospital pump, but the hospital pump is still better than nothing, and you will get into the habit of pumping about every 3 hours if you have a baby in the NICU. And that way, whatever milk you do produce or colostrum, and remember, it's gonna be really small at first, and that's normal because the baby's tummy the first day is only the size of a teaspoon, guys, or a marble. So let that kind of blow your mind. So whatever you get out, just give it to your nurse and they will get it to your baby in the NICU, and they will, you know, depending on the age of the baby, of course, this is all kind of baby specific, but if they can, they're gonna get that to the baby. So any colostrum or feeding that you can get to your baby ASAP is gonna be beneficial. Ideally, healthy full-term baby, try to initiate within the first hour. Okay, that was kind of a long one. Next, we are gonna go over some latching tips. So, and I meant to say this in the beginning, let me just preface this by saying, y'all, breastfeeding is hard. It's hard. I mean, almost every one of my friends and patients, say this to me at some point, it's way harder than I expected. That doesn't mean you can't do it. I want you to be as prepared as you can, but just go into it knowing like this is gonna be learning for me, learning for baby, and hopefully you both catch on really fast. But don't give up, keep trying and ask for help, ask your nurse for help. Most hospitals have a lactation consultant. You can even reach out to your mom tribe, friends around you that have breastfed before, but ask for help. Okay, so latching tips. We're gonna use lovely baby doll that I stole from my girls' playroom here. What is super important about latching is you wanna get as much of your nipple, the whole areola, not just the tip part, into the baby's mouth as possible. You know, your baby's mouth is luckily gonna be a lot bigger than this one. But, just the tip is never a good thing, okay? You can remember that. You don't ever want just the tip. So what you're gonna do is, and we'll just do what this is called a cross cradle hold, guys. You wanna grab your nipple and really shape. We call it shape and shove. So actually for babies this way, you're gonna shape this way. You want to shape your nipple so that it's parallel with the baby's mouth. So if you're looking at the baby's mouth like this, it's gonna be shape it like a hamburger, not a hot dog, if that makes sense. So it just is parallel with their mouth, easier to get in there. So you're gonna shape, you wanna kind of tease the baby, we say a little bit, like rub your nipple on their top lip, wait for them to open up super wide and shove it in. So we call that the shape and shove, guys. So tease, as soon as they open up big, you really gotta shove it in, and this is a newborn, so I'm gonna hold its head a little better. But once you have the back of the head, the back of the neck, don't be afraid to shove them on there. As long as they have at least one nostril that they can breathe out of, definitely that's super important. Always remember, make sure they can breathe. But get as much of that nipple in there as you can and try to keep it in the mouth for the whole feed if you can, okay? So if you do start to notice it pinching or you feel like they're slipping off to the tip, grab a pinky and stick it in the corner of their mouth and break the suction of the latch so that you don't pull your nipple like totally across the room trying to get the baby off, because that's gonna hurt later. So let's see if I forgot anything else. Oh, and you'll understand, like, once as you continue to feed, you'll know what feels right if the baby's latched well. So it should feel like tugging or pulling. It should not feel like pinching. And people say breastfeeding shouldn't hurt. It shouldn't hurt, and it's true that if you have a good latch, once the baby's latched and sucking, that should not be too painful. But some people have really sensitive nipples, so I'm not gonna say, and most people, when you first start breastfeeding, you've never had anything sucking on these things, 24 hours a day. So they've gotta get a little calloused, I'm not gonna lie. So The first few days or weeks even are going to be a little bit tender and painful, but it's nothing that you can't handle. But do just pay attention to if that hurts more than usual, feels like maybe they might be pinching, break that section and relatch, and that is really helpful. And we'll talk about tips for pain here in a little bit. Okay, one of the main questions that I get, guys, is how do I know if my baby's getting enough? Okay, so you're gonna know by keeping track of diapers. So wet and dirty diapers, and at the hospital, they should hopefully have a log for you. You're gonna start tracking. For example, the first day, we only need 1 wet and 1 dirty diaper, okay, in the first 24 hours. But as the baby starts taking in more volume, that's gonna increase. So I wish I could give you just one, answer for how many wet and dirty diapers your baby needs, but it's gonna completely depend on how old they are, okay? How many days old. So, and if they're exclusively breastfeeding or not. So, a really good resource that I go for questions like that, I try to always point y'all to evidence-based resources, but anything breastfeeding related or breast milk storage guidelines or anything like that, a really good website is Kelly Mom, and I will find a link for y'all that shows maybe a chart or something helpful, and if I can't find one, I'll make one, to show you how many wet and dirty diapers you need every day. And always ask your pediatrician, guys. Of course, they can help you, and hopefully they will give you some guidelines. But that's how you know. That's how you know they're making enough. If they're making diapers, they're getting milk, okay? Next, number 4. So it's gonna be super important to monitor baby's weight. So obviously we're gonna do that for you in the hospital, and you may not know, but a lot of people know, in the beginning, the baby's actually gonna lose weight, and that's normal, guys. We expect them to lose weight, especially the first few days, but that should start leveling off and then going back up. So ideally, they're gonna be back to birth weight or past it by 2 weeks. Now, everyone's pediatrician is probably a little bit different, but likely they're gonna have you follow up, a day or 2 or a couple days after you leave the hospital to do a weight check and just make sure everything's going well with baby. And then probably at 2 weeks. And if you are worried or concerned about the baby gaining weight, you could, and I'm not gonna lie, I did do this, but you could order a scale from Amazon or anywhere else. They do make baby scales. But if you think that you're the type of person that's gonna obsess over it and it's gonna make you more stressed than it's worth, then don't bother. But keep in mind, that's an option if you do wanna keep a really close eye on it. And then a lot of pediatricians are really great about just letting you come in for a quick weight check. Okay, so talk with your pedi, or if you're worried and the baby has lost more than 10% of their birth weight, just definitely be in touch with your pediatrician, and also get in touch with a lactation consultant, and they can really help you there and see if maybe we need to supplement a little bit in the meantime. And there's so many options there. We could talk more about that later, but just kind of, you want to keep an eye on it. Ideally, they don't lose more than about 10% of their birth weight, and then they start going back up. So remember, if you really want to, you could order a scale. If you think it's going to stress you out, don't waste your money. But also you can always, take the baby in for a quick weight check, and make sure to make those first couple appointments so that you can really be keeping a close eye, and you and your pediatrician can work together to make sure that the baby's gaining weight and getting fed. Okay, let's see here. Number 5. Okay, so like we said, the first few days, are right when baby's born. You have milk, that's your colostrum, the first few days. And like I said, it's a little bit different than what we think of milk. It's usually kind of yellow colored. It's thicker in consistency. That's why the electric pump is kind of harder to get it out. And it's full of it's so good for baby, guys. It's full of so many vitamins and nutrients. And depending on if your baby was early or full term, it really is amazing, the science behind it. Your body knows exactly what that baby needs. Or if, for example, if you're sick, then your body will produce antibodies to protect the baby from illnesses. So that's kind of a different talk. But the colostrum and the breast milk do the same thing. So it's really, really good for baby. If you are able to breastfeed, awesome. So you're gonna start out with colostrum, and then by day 4 or at the latest day 5, what we think of as your milk is gonna come in, okay? So If by day 5, which I'll tell you even from personal experience, especially if you've had a C-section with my twins, it was day 5 that I really got that engorged and full feeling and my milk actually came in. So if by day 5 you don't feel full and engorged, you definitely want to check in with a lactation consultant and be monitoring baby's weight closely to see if you need to supplement. So keep that in mind. It takes 3 to 5 days, and I've found that sometimes subsequent babies, your milk will come in faster. Your body's just kind of like, oh yeah, I know what we're doing here. And that's when you'll really start to see those milk drunk, super sleepy babies, which is always a good thing. We know that they are full and happy. Okay, number 6, let's talk about clogged ducts. So especially when your milk does come in, and in the beginning your milk is regulating, it's really easy to get clogged ducts, unfortunately, because the baby just can't usually eat enough to completely empty. So you want to treat clogged ducts as quick as possible. And what it'll feel like is like a lump or a mass or a ball and on your breast, and it'll be hard. It might be kind of painful, and you'll just be able to, if you massage it, ideally, hopefully you'll get milk out. But you want to treat it as soon as you can. You can treat it with hot showers or warm baths. You can even apply heat to your breast before you breastfeed, and that just really gets the milk flowing. Gentle massage all the way around your breast before you start feeding. Always feed on that side first if you have a clogged duct. Otherwise, you want to switch which side you start with. But the main thing is keep feeding on that side. If you can't get it to unclog, kind of a little tip and trick that I've used and I've heard from other moms is you can even get on all 4s. I know it sounds totally crazy and probably not our most flattering moment, but you can get on all 4s, literally dangle over the baby and breastfeed that way. And the gravity with the baby pulling, you just lay them on the ground, obviously carpet or something soft. And that I've heard from a lot of moms that works really well, especially maybe if you do the heat and massage beforehand. Now, guys, you want to be on guard or watch for mastitis, especially if you've had clogged ducts. So if you start to feel flu-like, if you are getting hot and cold or having chills, you're noticing redness on your breast or streaks, or you're having pain and notice, especially like around maybe a clogged duct or a lump, then reach out to your OB ASAP, guys, because mastitis, I've had it twice, I believe, and also lots of friends and patients that have had it, and it can come on really fast, and it can also be dangerous. So you want to just, it's no big deal if you contact your doctor and you get antibiotics for it. Treat it, it's gone and done, and you don't have to worry. But if left untreated, it could cause things like abscesses or even threaten your milk supply. So you want to take care of it as quick as you can. Also important though, keep feeding if you can, as much as you can on that side that you have the mastitis. You want to keep feeding, because if you stop, it'll get more full and just cause more issues. So even if it's a little painful, do your best to keep feeding on that side. Okay, I know this is a lot. I'm trying to slow down a little bit. Number 7, if you are having issues getting your baby to latch, so this is kind of back to latching stuff. These are in no particular order, guys, as you can see. But if you're having issues getting baby to latch, or you feel like maybe you might have flat or inverted nipples, or you just feel like baby's really having problems getting suction, one of the tips that we give to our patients is to use a breast pump. You could either use a manual pump or even just hand express, or your electric pump just for a few minutes onto the nipple, and just the suction from that really helps bring the nipple out and make it easier for them to latch. And if that doesn't work, you could try a nipple shield. The hospital will have that, or you can find it at Target or the drugstore. It's basically a little plastic nipple that goes shield over your nipple with holes, and it helps shape the nipple, and it kind of suctions your nipple up into it so that as the baby sucks, they still get the milk through the holes. That we recommend that just be kind of a temporary solution. Some people use it forever, and that's fine, but just for convenience sake and for you, so you don't have to always worry about the shield, I recommend just doing it for a couple days. But if you really are having issues getting baby to latch or keep suction, then that's something worth trying. Okay, Tips for pain. I told you we would come back to this. So like I said, people say breastfeeding shouldn't hurt, but they are totally lying. If it's your first time to breastfeed, like I said, you've never had anything stuck on your nipples all day, every day, and it can be painful. I mean, I hope for your sake that it's not, but I'm not gonna lie, especially when I was breastfeeding twins, but even with the singleton, it can be really painful, you know? So prevention is key, guys. I recommend starting from the beginning with all the nipple cream, okay? Whatever nipple cream you decide to use, it doesn't really matter, but I chose to use lanolin, and the hospital will have lanolin for you. But after every feed, go ahead and get a pea-sized amount, rub it all over the nipple, just get in the habit of that, because that'll keep them moisturized and really help prevent cracking and just other painful issues that could arise. Another pain tip is they have these cooling gels that are amazing, especially if your nipples are getting sore, and you just put them right in your bra or whatever after you feed, and they are a godsend. They're a lifesaver. You can even throw them in the fridge so that, like, in between feeds, and they'll tell you on the package how long you can keep them, and you just rinse them in between feeds and put them back in the fridge or back obviously on your breast. So I usually recommend getting a couple and rotating so that you can always have one in the fridge ready for you. You can even get these from the hospital, so a little tip is ask for extras before you go, because they can be kind of expensive, but they really are a godsend. And then let's see, okay. When I was dying in pain with the twins, I reached out to some mom experts of mine, just some friends that I knew had breastfed before. And I'm like, I am so uncomfortable. What can I do? Because I don't want to quit breastfeeding, but the pain is really bad. So if you are getting to where you're desperate, the pain gets really uncomfortable in those first few days or week, get some nipple shields, because I put the nipple shield on and breastfed, and it was like I was in heaven. No more pain, and you'll be tempted to use them forever, but don't. Remember, just to get over the hump, get to where your nipple's a little more, I can't think of a better word than calloused, but just to where you get more used to it and it doesn't hurt anymore. I promise it will get better, and it's not gonna hurt forever. But the nipple shields, I've told that to all of my friends, and they tell me it's the #1 piece of advice that you gave me, Sarah. You saved me with the nipple shield. So I say get some in advance in case it is the middle of the night and you don't imagine how you could possibly breastfeed for one more second. Pull out the nipple shields. You will thank me later. Okay, when and how often to feed? Okay, so breastfeeding is really baby-led. If you're talking a full-term, healthy, normal baby, you know, you're gonna be feeding about every 1 to 3 hours. If you get 3-hour stretches, then that's fantastic. Sometimes they're gonna wanna feed every 1 to 2 hours, and that's okay too. That's normal. But really we wanna follow their lead. So look for hunger cues, like the baby looking around, licking their lips, kind of moving their mouth like they're wanting to suck on something. If you can get them to latch when they're doing those initial hunger cues, rather than waiting till they're screaming, you're both gonna be less stressed. Latching usually goes better. Everyone will be happier. I know that's not always possible, so give yourself grace, but it's always a really good idea. So about every 1 to 3 hours, or whenever baby's hungry. Now, breastfed babies especially are going to do what's called cluster feeding. Try to learn to love it, because if you think about the science behind it, it's really cool. That's when baby's gonna wanna feed like every hour, a couple times in a row, or back to back, or it's gonna feel like you've been breastfeeding for 15 years. But really what's happening is the baby is doing what they need to do to increase your supply as they grow, so it's normal. So obviously as they grow and as the days go on, they need more milk. In breastfeeding, I can't believe I haven't said this yet, but it's all about supply and demand. So the more you feed, the more you make. So if you can really follow your baby's lead, and if they want to cluster feed, just remember, like, this is normal. This is gonna help me be able to continue to breastfeed. So try to follow their lead. I promise you will eventually get a break, and maybe they'll even sneak in, you know, a longer stretch for you afterwards. So that would be great. And while we're talking about cluster feeding, let me just say, ask for help, guys. You know, if you really need a break, I really hope that you have a support person or a partner or a spouse or somebody that can change the diapers for you, or, you know, burp the baby after you feed them. Just because you're breastfeeding, you don't have to do everything. So, you know, ask, like I said, whoever is willing to help, have them burp, feed, and also just do, more importantly, housework so that you can work on feeding the baby. So try not to get overwhelmed with having to be the one doing it all. Okay, number 10. Guys, this is so important, and I almost killed myself with this. So if you're breastfeeding, you know, breastfeeding's going well, baby's latching well, first couple weeks, remember, especially if you ever want to leave the house, or you'd ever like to go on a date with your significant other, or you just ever want a break, or especially if you're going to go back to work, you've got to remember to introduce the bottle. So I know some people can get really protective and be afraid that the baby won't be able to go, you know, won't want to go back to the breast from the bottle. And sometimes they can be a little finicky. And in that scenario, I say, don't give up, because they know how to latch. Just keep being persistent. They will latch again. Might just take a few more minutes than usual. That's okay. But around a couple weeks of age, and I'll let you talk with your pediatrician to pick, you know, the best age. But I would say somewhere between 2 and 4 weeks, you really want to start introducing the bottle. Now, I definitely recommend getting something that mimics like the shape of your breast. So I used Tommy Tippy with the twins. I know a lot of friends really like Comotomo. There's a million out there, guys. But my best advice that I can give you is just get one of like 3 or 4 types of bottles, different brands, all that are good for breastfeeding, because you have no idea which one your kid is gonna take. Let me tell you, they can be, all 3 of my girls were very, very stubborn when it came to bottle feeding. And I would get them to take the bottle, you know, in the beginning. And then what's really important is you've got to keep doing it at least once a week, guys, if not more. If they're going easily from breast to bottle, keep introducing the bottle over and over, because they'll forget and they're not going to want it. So instead of wasting all this money on a whole 20 pack of all these bottles that you think are going to be great and then they don't want to touch them, just get one of each type until you know which one your baby likes. And I really hope that you are the one that has the baby, or that has the baby that will take the bottle with no issues and not really care which one. But unfortunately, I wasn't. So let me just share that little tidbit of advice with you. Okay, a couple bonus tips for you guys. Breastfeeding, unfortunately, doesn't work for everyone, and I have no idea why. Some people have supply issues. Their milk never fully comes in. You know, it could be anatomy issues. Who knows what it's related to, but it doesn't work for everyone. Or just mentally, it doesn't work for everyone. If it gets to be too much stress or too much anxiety and you are feeling depressed or anxious, or it makes you not feel happy with your baby, that's not good, okay? So what's most important is feeding the baby. So if that means giving formula, having someone else feed the baby, or just pumping and bottle feeding, it doesn't matter. You know, you've got to know that you are doing what is best for you and your baby, okay? So try to let go of any guilt related to breastfeeding. Gosh, it can be such a guilt-heavy topic. So even myself, I will say, like, I was guilty of not wanting to supplement when probably it would have been easier on me every now and then, maybe just adding in a little bit of formula instead of killing myself over making sure I always have enough supply in the freezer to work overnight at the hospital. So just remember, fed is best, guys. Try not to have too much guilt. If it doesn't work out or it's causing you too much anxiety, let it go. You will both be better for it, trust me. Another bonus for you, set up a pumping schedule and stick to it, okay? If you are gonna go back to work, or if you, like I said, if you're just gonna need a break, because everyone will, so that's everyone. Now I'm talking a few weeks in. You don't wanna pump too much in the beginning when you're really engorged, because remember, it's supply and demand. So if you're asking for a lot more, even though you're getting a lot, you might end up with an oversupply, which is also can be an issue. So just adding a pumping session maybe in the morning after you feed the baby when you are most full, that can be a really good way to build up your stash. And it is good in the beginning when you have a really strong supply. Kind of take advantage of that. Do a pumping session maybe in the morning, maybe in the evening. If baby's doing a longer stretch at night, then take advantage of that. And then guys, this is huge. I will link an example for you in the notes, but get one of those, the brand I can think of is Haka, but it's like a little suction manual pump, and you literally suction it onto the opposite breast that you're feeding on. And it will passively, or just from suction and gravity, collect the milk from your letdown that normally is spilling into your pad and your bra and being a waste. I've collected a couple ounces that way per feed, not always, so don't be discouraged, but sometimes, especially in the morning, I didn't have it with the twins, but with Harper, I used it, and it is literally a godsend. It will save you so much time pumping, because you can, if you use it every time, you will quickly have a stash in the freezer before you know it. So definitely get one of those. They're not expensive, just a little silicone, plastic, something like that. Hand pump, or like suction. You just suction it right on. Trust me, I know it sounds crazy. I'll link it below. Okay, super important. Hydrate, guys. A couple more things. I'm almost done, I promise. You have to drink so much water. Like, where do you think the milk comes from? So you have got to drink so much water, way more than you think. Stay super hydrated, and remember to eat. It is so easy to forget to eat when you're breastfeeding and you're taking care of a newborn and you just want to sleep any chance that you get a free second. But please, please remember to eat plenty of calories and drink plenty of water. And it's okay to supplement if you need to, okay? So like I said, I was guilty of this. Don't feel bad if every now and then you need to supplement with a little bit of formula, okay? I promise your baby's still gonna be healthy and smart. And like I said, if breastfeeding doesn't work out, again, your baby's still gonna be healthy and smart and perfectly great, okay? You are doing the best you can. Yeah, I'm trying to think of any other tips that I have, guys, but that was probably a lot for one video. So as always, please leave me questions in the comments below. I'll link my email for you, my Facebook group where I share tons of free education and tips, and people ask questions all the time. So I'm gonna link that here for you, as well as all my social channels if you wanna check us out and follow us over there. And please, please, please subscribe to the channel. That is so helpful. I hope y'all enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next one.